Welcome, listeners, to the Let's Talk and Walk podcast. Today, we are walking by the beach discussing a new topic about a truly pivotal and, well, often challenging era of early Islamic history.
Yeah, we're diving into the time right after the death of Prophet Muhammad, the Rashidun Caliphate.
That's roughly 632 to 661 CE, right?
Yeah.
A period of amazing growth, but also some serious internal conflict. The First Fitna.
Absolutely. And our plan today is to kind of unpack the key events, the big tensions that shaped the Muslim community in those crucial first decades.
So it all starts with the Prophet's passing in 632. A huge shock, obviously, and suddenly no leader.
A massive leadership vacuum. And it seems things happened very fast. Almost immediately, didn't they? There was that urgent
For
meeting.
Saqifah, yeah. What exactly went down there? It sounds critical.
It really was. While the Prophet's closest family were preparing for his burial, some of the Medinan followers, the Ansar, gathered. They were worried, about what came next.
And then the Meccan followers, the Muhajirun, showed up.
They did. And this intense debate kicked off about who should lead the community.
Which led eventually to Abu Bakr being chosen. But that choice itself, it wasn't straightforward, was it? It had ripples.
Big ripples.
Yeah.
Abu Bakr, a senior companion, was elected, yeah. Umar's quick pledge of allegiance helped solidify it. But key figures like Ali ibn Abi Talib weren't initially on board or even part of that immediate decision.
So more than just politics.
Oh, definitely. You can see the seeds here of two different ideas about leadership. One based on community consensus, maybe seniority, the other potentially on lineage or designation. This divide, well, it became fundamental later. Sunni and Shia perspectives trace back to this.
Okay, so Abu Bakr takes charge, but immediately faces a crisis, the Ridda Wars.
Right, the wars of apostasy. But it's a bit complex. It wasn't necessarily everyone abandoning Islam entirely.
Oh, what was the main issue then?
For a lot of Arabian tribes, their loyalty, their pact, was seen as being directly with Muhammad himself. When he died, they basically questioned Medina's authority.
Like challenging the idea of a central state continuing after him, maybe refusing to pay zakat, the religious tax.
Exactly that. They saw zakat as something owed to the Prophet. So Abu Bakr had to launch these military campaigns to, reestablish unity. It was tough, costly battles like Yamama were fought.
High stakes then, holding the community together.
Absolutely vital. And something else crucial happened under Abu Bakr, prompted by losses in those wars.
What was that?
The beginning of compiling the Quran into a written text. So many who had memorized it were lost in battle. It became urgent.
Wow. Okay. So that consolidation sets things up for his successor, Umar, nominated by Abu Bakr, I think.
Correct. And Umar's caliphate is just transformed. He takes the title, Commander of the Faithful. This is the era of the Great Conquest.
Rapid expansion, right? Into Syria, Iraq, Persia, Egypt. How did that happen so fast?
Well, there was early Muslim military skill and strong motivation. But also, you have to remember the state of the Byzantine and Sasanian Empire.
They were weakened.
Yeah, they'd been fighting each other for ages, lots of internal problems, discontent among their populations. The conditions were, in a way, ripe for change.
But Umar didn't just conquer, he built systems, right? Administration.
Absolutely key. He set up the Diwan, like a registry for the military, for stipends, managing the treasury. He organized provinces, appointed governors, judges, qadis, founded garrison towns, the Amsar.
So building the actual machinery of an empire.
Precisely. He figured out how to manage this huge, diverse territory. Policies for land taxes like Kharaj and poll taxes for non-Muslims, jizya. Really foundational stuff.
An impressive structure. But then under Uthman, who came next, things got more complicated.
Uthman was chosen by a council Umar set up before his death. Expansion did continue under him, yes. North Africa, deeper into Persia, even developing a navy.
And he had a major religious project, too.
Huge. Standardizing the Quran. Variations in recitation were popping up across the vast empire. So Uthman commissioned an official version, the Uthmanic Codex.
And ordered other versions destroyed.
Yes. Crucial for having one single text. But, some saw it as heavy-handed. Another source of friction.
Because there are other tensions building up against him, too.
Definitely. Especially in his later years. Accusations of nepotism were rife, that he favored his own clan, the Banu Umayya, with positions and wealth.
Alienating others, even important figures.
Yes, even some senior companions became critical. Plus, there were grievances from the provinces, especially places like Kufa and Egypt, about governors and economic policies, how wealth was being distributed.
And all this discontent, it boiled over.
Tragically, yes. It culminated in 656 CE, with rebels from the provinces coming to Medina, besieging Uthman's house, and ultimately assassinating him.
A really shocking event. A caliph murdered. That must have shattered the community.
It did. Utterly devastating. It plunges the community straight into the First Fitna, the first major civil war.
And Ali is chosen as the next caliph, right in the middle of this chaos.
Exactly. A really difficult situation. He had support, especially in Medina, but also faced immediate powerful opposition, people demanding justice or retribution for Uthman's death.
Including some very prominent names.
Yes, like Aisha, the Prophet's widow, and other senior companions like Talha and Zubair. And critically, Muawiya, the governor of Syria and a relative of Uthman, refused to pledge allegiance until Uthman's killers were punished.
Which leads to open warfare between Muslims?
Tragically, yes. First, the Battle of Camel in 656 near Basra. Ali against Aisha, Talha, and Zubair. A terrible day.
And then the confrontation with Muawiya.
The huge Battle of Siffin in 657, a long, drawn-out conflict in Syria. Reports suggest Ali's forces were gaining the upper hand when Muawiyah's side did something unexpected.
What was that?
They raised pages of the Quran on their lances, calling for the conflict to be decided by God's book through arbitration.
Arbitration? How did that go down?
It was hugely divisive. Ali was apparently reluctant, but a large group within his own army pressured him to accept. They wanted the fighting to stop.
But the arbitration itself didn't really solve things.
Not really. The process was contentious, and the outcome basically weakened Ali's position significantly, while Muawiya kind of came out stronger, or at least on an equal footing. It didn't end the core dispute.
And it created yet another split.
Yes, this is where the Kharijites emerge. They were initially supporters of Ali, but they vehemently rejected the idea of humans arbitrating what they saw as God's judgment.
Their slogan was, "Judgment belongs to God alone."
Exactly. They saw both Ali and Muawiya as compromising. They broke away, forming their own radical, separate group, very puritanical, often militant.
And they clashed with Ali, too.
Yes, Ali had to fight them at the Battle of Nahrawan. It was this group, the Kharijites, that was ultimately responsible for Ali's assassination.
When was that?
In 661 CE, a Kharijite assassinated him while he was praying in Kufa, ending his incredibly difficult caliphate.
So, after Ali?
His son, Hassan, was acclaimed caliph, mainly in Kufa, but Muawiya was still there, very powerful. Hassan, wanting to avoid more bloodshed, fairly quickly abdicated.
Through a treaty with Muawiya?
Yes, a treaty. Key terms included Muawiya ruling according to Islamic law, amnesty for Ali's supporters, stopping the public cursing of Ali, and, importantly for some interpretations, potentially suggesting the next leader should be chosen by consultation, though this is debated.
And this treaty, Hassan's abdication, essentially marks the end of that early period.
It really does. Muawiya takes control, unchallenged. He moves the capital from Kufa to Damascus in Syria, his power base. And then, the really crucial step.
What's that?
He nominates his own son, Yazid, as his successor. This establishes hereditary rule.
Ending the era of the elected, rightly guided caliphs, the Rashidun.
Exactly. It marks the beginning of the Umayyad dynasty, a fundamental shift.
So, looking back at this whole period, 632 to 661, 30 incredibly packed years, how did it shape the Islamic world long term?
I mean, in almost every way imaginable. You have the foundations of Islamic law being developed, the administrative structures for a vast empire being built, the military expansion that defined its geography for centuries.
And the Quran being standardized.
Critically important, yes. But also the internal conflicts. The First Fitna. They weren't just temporary disagreements.
They solidified the major divisions.
Absolutely. The core questions raised about who should lead, the nature of authority, how to interpret God's will in politics. The arguments and battles of this era cemented the differences that led to the lasting Sunni and Shia identities. And the Kharijites, though smaller, represented another enduring strand of thought.
It really throws into sharp relief that tension, doesn't it, between the ideal of a unified community guided by faith and the hard realities of power, politics, and managing a huge, diverse empire with competing interests.
You see it playing out constantly. The struggle to maintain unity and principle amidst rapid change and human ambition. Those early choices, those conflicts, they cast such a long shadow.
All right, that wraps up our walk for today. It definitely gave us a lot to think about, maybe something to mull over with a coffee or a snack.
Hope you also enjoyed the wave sounds in the background. It was a really interesting one, and we truly hope you all listening enjoyed it as much as we did. Thanks for joining us.
We greatly value your engagement. If you found this episode informative, please consider leaving a like. We also welcome your suggestions for new topics and areas you'd like us to cover in future episodes. Feel free to share those in the comments section.
And finally, to ensure you don't miss out on our upcoming content, please hit the subscribe button and share it with your friends.
We look forward to bringing you more interesting discussions. Thank you for listening to the Let's Talk and Walk podcast.